Super Reckless. It may well be a Quadra. It is. And welcome to the continuing action in the European League of Legends Championship Series, coming to you live from our studios here in Cologne, Germany. I am Lee D-Man Smith. I'm joined once again behind the caster desk by Martin Deficio Lunge. Almost there.
Whatever.
As we draw ever closer towards the end of the spring split.
That's right, D-Man. And the action is really starting to pick up here in Week 10, and the teams are all extremely close in the standings, of course, and with a Super Week coming up here, a lot of things can still happen.
Well, every win counts, of course, but before we get into the news here in Europe, let's take a look at what's happening at some of the leagues around the world. Earlier today in the Garena Premier League, the quarterfinals wrapped up with the Season 2 World Champions Taipei Assassins defeating Insidious Gaming 3-0. They advanced to the semi-finals where they will face their sister team, the Taipei Snipers, with AHQ facing off against Saigon Jokers on the other side of the bracket. In the Chinese LPL, earlier league leaders are OMG. They are sitting in first place with 22 points, and they stole a Baron and the series this morning against Positive Energy, of course, who finished second place last year. And the newly formed Edward Gaming, they are now sitting in second place at 19 points, taking a win over IG.
And finally, over in Korea for the OGN Champion Spring season, the early favorites SK Telecom T1K and Samsung Ozone, they continue their dominance in the group stages. Earlier this week, we had SK T1K bounce back to beat OGN newcomers Prime Optimus, while Ozone looked very dominant as they scorched CJ Frost 2-0.
Well, turning back to the European LCS, you probably noticed on the match graphic before the broadcast that we have an extra game added to the schedule today. This is due to an issue with yesterday's SK Gaming versus Gambit match. Unfortunately, there was a bug yesterday that caused a significant increase in Aatrox's ability in the early game, which was, of course, the reason for the pause by the SK Gaming around the 4-minute mark. We believe that SK was not properly informed of their ability to request a remake, which would have been granted to them had they asked.
And because of this confusion, as well as the fact that SK clearly pointed out the bug and felt disadvantaged by it, we're going to void the result of yesterday's match and replay it at the end of the LCS matches today.
Meanwhile, in other news, we also had a new player in the LCS yesterday. It was Cotnex. He played his first game for Millennium against the Copenhagen Wolves, but sadly it was not enough to give them the win.
No, but Cotnex, he showed great presence in the early game, and he picked up the first 2 kills for Millennium, actually, and he was constantly trying to make plays on Kha'Zix, and while he did go a bit over-aggressive a few times, then he was still one of the best players for Millennium, actually, in the game.
And we also saw Vel'Koz for the first time when he was picked by N-Rated as a support champion in the match. That will, of course, be remade later today.
Yeah, so N-Rated and Candy Panda, they played a very aggressive lane with both Vel'Koz and Jinx. And while the mobility is low and we actually saw them give up first blood, they still managed to get 2 kills onto Edward with this high damage combo. And I like this setup, but I think we need to see more Vel'Koz support before we can 100% judge it.
Well, yesterday, all of the fan favorites won, with Alliance and Fnatic, of course, continuing their charge up the table.
Yeah, some of the preseason favorites are really starting to shine here. Alliance and Fnatic were both teams people expected to fight for the #1 spot, and each of them are showing very nice play at the moment. If they can keep their performance going, coming into the playoffs, it's going to be impossible to predict who's going to win.
Well, let's check out the table to see where all the teams are in the standings. Currently tied in first place, of course, because that match will be remade, is Gambit and SK Gaming at 13 wins, 9 losses. That's, of course, going to be played out later on today. Third place tie is Alliance and Fnatic now with 13 wins, 10 losses. And, of course, that means Alliance, they are on that 7-game win streak. Meanwhile, Fnatic, they're on a 3-game win streak of their own. And now for the first time in the LCS European Spring Split, ROCCAT face themselves outside the top 4. They are now 5th place with 12 wins, 11 losses.
And in 6th place, we got Copenhagen Wolves with 11 wins and 12 losses. And right under them, we have Super Hot Crew, who's chasing this playoff spot with 9 wins and 14 losses. And of course, Millennium down in the bottom, 7 wins and 16 losses.
And of course, with the teams so close, we are seeing some amazing plays as the fights for their positions. Let's take a look at one of those most talked about hashtag LCS big plays that had you guys buzzing on Twitter yesterday.
Yeah, this one comes from the Rocket against Alliance match, and it's of course the Flash Lantern from NiF. And Simon D. Demon, he said on Twitter, NiF Lantern, flashing for Froggen, so epic, and go Alliance of course. And this was your most talked about play. And the awesome thing to highlight with this is not only just the flash from NiF here with Lantern, it's the fact he's actually spotting out Froggen being in issues together with himself and then getting both to safety instantly. Such a smart move and very good reaction from him.
Under a lot of pressure as well, the Super Megadeth Rocket came in, Jankos with the claws. Remember, of course, anything that happens in these games, you guys can tweet us at LOL Esports and use the hashtag LCS Big Plays, and there should be plenty of them. We do expect to see more of those big plays today, of course, as the teams will keep fighting for their playoff slots or to avoid relegation. First up, it's going to be SK Gaming facing off against Alliance. Big game to start the day off. Then it's going to be the Super Hot Crew. They're taking on Gambit.
After that, Fnatic and Millennium will do battle, and then the Copenhagen Wolves will face Rocket. And we'll close out the week with the remake game between SK Gaming and Gambit. But right after those games, the European Challenger Series final for the second half of the Spring Series will happen right here on our stage. Ninjas in Pyjamas will be facing Departed in a best of 3. And Demon and I will be calling those matches, so make sure, of course, to stay tuned.
It's a long day, that's for sure. And of course, with Super Week ending the Spring Split next week and playoffs on the way, there is a lot to keep track of. Remember that you can find the calendar of the games over on LOLesports.com, along with the standings, stats, VODs, and much more. While we're checking out the schedule, you can also vote on today's matches and let us know who you think will win.
You just click on the thumbs up next to your choices, and then we'll show your picks throughout the day before each game. And while you're on the site, click on the tickets link and join us here in Cologne, Germany to see the LCS in person. We still have a few tickets left for next week, so make sure, of course, you get them while you actually can.
Yeah, should be some great games next week. You can also talk to us on Twitter. Write to us at LOL Esports and tell us which European LCS team plays the most mind games and why.
I absolutely love SK Gaming with